The rest time in the slaughter plant has the specific purpose to let pigs recover for the stress of transportation and handling. So when the rest time actually, the objective of this rest time is actually to let pigs recover from transportation.
Well, welcome to Swine at Canada. My name is John Patience, and I'm delighted to be the host of today's podcast. With us today, we have Dr. Luigi Faucitano. He's a research scientist at Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada in Sherbrooke, Quebec. And he does a lot of work in the whole area of meat science and especially in transportation. And we're going to talk about some of those topics and other topics today. So welcome, Luigi.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for having me again.
Well, we're delighted to have you here, and for our listeners, just to be aware, Luigi has done a podcast for us previously. It's on the Swine podcast channel if you're interested, and we talked about a number of research areas that Luigi has been involved in. But maybe on that note, Luigi, can you give us just a brief introduction? You've already done that in the previous podcast, but for those who didn't hear it, maybe tell us just a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, okay. I'm Luigi Faucitano. I'm Italian, and I was born in Italy. I studied in Italy until I decided to do other experiences, other research experiences somewhere else. And I did my doctoral studies in Spain, and then my postdoc studies in Brazil. Then I came back to Spain again for my postdoc studies, always working on the handling of pigs prior to slaughter and also stunning and slaughter for a bit. And since 1999, I've worked in Agriculture Canada at the Sherbrooke Research and Development Center, coordinating a program on animal welfare and meat science.
Working with nature and not against it, piglets fed AX3 see significant and improved feed efficiency. Producers know the reality of needing to reduce antibiotic and zinc use. AX3 Digest is a highly digestible novel protein that promotes improved in-barn performance, piglet health, and minimizes the need for zinc in the diet. For more information, visit www.protecta.com. That's www.protecta.com.
So, Luigi, I'm always impressed when I meet people from Europe. And can I assume from your description that if based on where you studied, that you must speak, in addition to Italian and English, you also speak Spanish and Portuguese?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's one thing to speak, and French, of course, yes, right. And it's one thing to speak a language just in conversation. It's quite another to study for a master's or a PhD in a foreign language.
It was an enriching experience from a personal point of view and professional point of view, of course.
Right on. Yeah, of course. Wonderful. Great. Well, we've got a number of topics we'd like to cover in this whole area of transportation, animal welfare, as you've described it, and a little bit on meat quality. But yeah, maybe just let's reiterate the lesson that you taught us last time, that the transportation issue is much more about animal welfare and mortality and mobility of the pigs and so on, and not very much about meat quality. Can you just cover that briefly for us, just to get our audience up to date on that lesson from last time?
Yeah, the thing is that transportation is just a part of the pre-slaughter period, the pre-slaughter handling period, when pigs, start to be prepared at a farm for transportation. They are transported. They are kept in a rest area at the slaughter plant, and then they are stunned and slaughtered. So transportation is just the phase just before the rest time at the slaughter plant. The rest time at the slaughter plant has the specific purpose to let pigs recover for the stress of transportation and handling. So when the rest time actually, the objective of this rest time is actually to let pigs recover from transportation. So That's why usually transportation is the effects of transportation are mostly limited to the welfare of pigs during the transportation phase and in the first phases of the rest time, because they have to recover from that. But this rest time not let these animals recover from the stress. So if the rest time is properly applied, they could recover, and they are perfectly fit or almost fit at the time of slaughter. So meat quality is not affected because all the effects of transportation has been completely lost. They because they recovered. When we see effects on meat quality is when transportation stress is very severe, so that it could bypass the buffer effect of rest time. So pigs are still under the effect of transportation and handling while they've been loaded out from the truck, and we can see see effects at the slaughter point. So at that time, pigs are still fatigued, or they are still under the effects because rest time was not sufficiently efficient to let them recover, and at that time we still see some effects on meat quality.
Right. And just to follow up on that a little bit, and you did refer to this in the previous podcast, and I'll relate to you just as an example, my experience when I was at Prairie Swine Center, and we would ship to a number of packing plants, but the closest one and the most frequent one was the packing plant in Saskatoon, which was a half an hour drive away, maybe 45 minutes at the very most. So you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
But otherwise, these pigs might go to Moose Jaw, which was 2.5 hours away, to Brandon, which would be, I can't remember, or Red Deer, Alberta, which was a good 5, 6, 7 hours. And I remember the people at the plant in Saskatoon used to complain bitterly about our pigs. They said they were just really difficult to handle. They were agitated and so on. And so my specific question to you then is, with respect to lairage and your previous comment, is there a need to have an extended lairage for pigs if there's a shortened transportation time compared to pigs that have been on a truck for 2 hours or more, for example?
Well, actually, the lairage time and the transportation time do not relate one with the other. The thing that usually rest time, when we applied, regardless of transportation time, regardless of the time pigs have been transported, 1 hour and a half, 2 hours are more than enough to let them recover.
Oh, okay.
But considering that, or based on the fact that rest time must be in pigs must be rested in lairage area, in the lairage pen, in very good condition in terms of floor space, in order for them to lie down and rest. And the ambient condition must be controlled, so the temperature, humidity must be controlled, the noise level around the pen must be controlled, everything must be controlled, because we have to allow pigs to rest and to recover from all this. When all these conditions have been respected, then 1 hour and a half and 2 hours are more than enough. But then the thing is always, because the lairage time is basically a practice which is applied for meat quality control. It's not applied for animal welfare, because if we just stick to animal welfare issue, then there's no need to have the pigs recover, because they can just go from the truck to the slaughter to the slaughter point right away, without any issue, because rest time is just adding up other stresses to them, like they are mixed.
Gotcha.
They are, they can fight with other pigs in the pen, which are completely unfamiliar to them. They have to adapt to settle down in a new environment. So all this kind of stress can be avoided if we just think of animal welfare. But lairage time is basically a practice to used to control meat quality variation.
Gotcha. Very good. Okay, well that's good. But I always found that interesting that when our pigs were on the truck for an extended period of time, when they arrived at the packing plant, they were much calmer, and when they were on the
Yeah,
truck for a short
the
period
thing
of time, they were pretty
they
agitated.
were fatigued because it's always the predator predator is always effect of or it's only a question of additive effects or different factors.
Gotcha.
When you transfer pigs for a long time, these pigs have been also deprived of feed for a long time. Because of course there's no feed in the truck to eat, so they've been fasted on the farm. They've been transported. They are without feed, without water, most of the time. Even though now vehicles are equipped with drinkers, so they can drink if they want to. But usually when they haven't drank, they haven't eaten. So when they get the slaughter plant, they are completely fatigued because they are without feed and water. They've been without feed and water for a while. So the first thing they are in a good environmental conditions, and the floor space is provided. The first thing they do is just to rest. They lie down and rest.
Gotcha. And that raises another question that I know comes up amongst producers, Luigi. And I don't know if you've done any work in this area or not, but if if I'm taking my pigs off feed prior to loading, so maybe I sort the pigs. Not all farms do that, obviously, because they don't have space. But if they are able to take the pigs off feed prior to shipping, what is the maximum length of time that pigs can be off feed before we actually start to affect our carcass weight? We know gut is going to be much less, so the yield is going to go up. But what about the effect on actual saleable carcass weight? How long can we have them off feed before that becomes an
Yeah,
issue?
I like to answer to this question by expanding a little bit more the topic. Talking
Sure.
about feed
Yeah.
withdrawal, feed withdrawal can be the issue of feed withdrawal can be split into different type of feed withdrawals. We have feed withdrawal, which is very important for the fitness of animals before transportation. And this is the feed withdrawal, the interval between the last feed and the start of transportation or loading time, which is very important for the fitness of pigs during transport. If feed withdrawal is too short, they can vomit, they can choke, they can be very agitated and very uncomfortable, and in the extreme cases they can also die during transportation because of that. Even though research is not very clear on this, but in terms of vomiting or being sick, this is very clear. Then we have the longer interval between the last feed and slaughter. This can have an effect actually on meat quality and carcass quality, on body weight losses. Usually,
Yeah.
we say that when the feed withdrawal is exceed 24 hours, the maximum 24 hours, then it started from there that carcass weight start to have losses. So we usually say that after 24 hours of withdrawal, where the animals loses 100 grams per additional hour after the 24 hours. Because carcass
Okay.
healed up to 24 hours is not affected. Of course, the animals loses weight, but it loses weight because of the excretions, because of loss of liquids, losses of solid, of feces, and he defecates, he urinates. So it loses weight because of this, because it's emptying the internal, the gastrointestinal tract and the bladder. But in terms of profits, in terms of carcass weight losses, 24 hours is the maximum. It started from there, then the carcass start losing weight.
Right. And I was just looking at an email, Luigi, that I got from a person that I know, a good friend of mine that works with a fairly major packer down here in the U.S. and said exactly the same thing: is that carcass weight is not affected unless feed withdrawal exceeds 24 hours. So
Yeah,
nice to see science agree,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, now let's move on then to a topic that you had suggested, and that is floor space. Apparently, you have some new information for us on floor space during transportation. So, help us to understand that important topic as well.
Yeah, the thing is that the future research on transportation or livestock transportation overall is to give science behind, to provide science behind the recommendation and legislations. And now the legislation is quite outdated. In Canada, for instance, the legislation is dates from 2001, so it's almost to 2000, 23 years old recommendations. In Europe is almost 20 years old, and they have to be updated. And the motivation and the recommendation is to provide to give science-based recommendations, science-based laws. And floor space is one of the topic that must be studied, because the recommendation and the legislation dates from such a long time going backward, and the pigs of today is not the same pig of 20 years ago. The modern genetics, the modern pigs are heavier, they are larger, they are more conformed, so they have completely different needs in terms of space, in terms of thermal condition, thermal needs, and so floor space must be updated. So now, which is very, very recent, in last December, the European Commission proposed new recommendation to amend the European legislation, which dates from 2004. And now the floor space has been increased in terms of, for instance, in 2004 the legislation was saying that for 100 kilo pigs the 0.425 square meter per pig was the minimum requirement, and now they are increasing to up to 0.65 square meter per pig.
Oh, wow.
Because the pig of today is different, and also because the calculation because everything is based now on the calculation of allometric equations based on the body weight of the animal. So based on that, they based on a K value, which is 0.027, they could recalculate all the space allowances, the minimum space allowances. So this is a new thing. It's something that must be validated by science. So more research must be done to validate this under commercial condition and see whether actually the application of the space allowance will result in lower death losses, in pigs, being in greater comfort in the truck during transportation. They can lie down in recumbent, fully or semi-recumbent positions, and they can rest, because the first thing they have to do, they have to be provided with, is to have space to rest, to lie down, because they've been handled, they've been withdrawn of feed. They are fatigued. They've been handled. They have to interact with handle with people, and they have to recover from all this. So the first thing they have to do is to lie down. So
Right.
floor space is a new topic. It is something that we have to work on all kind of pig types, starting from piglets to market weight pigs up to the cow sows. So everything has been recalculated in order to accommodate these pigs, according to their needs, physical and thermal needs.
And is there research underway in Canada on this topic right now?
Yeah, I did some research over a couple years ago on market weight pigs, based on the codes of practice for transportation in Canada, because in Canada the weight, the pig weight is increasing over time. Now the average is 130 kilos, but there are already plants slaughtering 135, 140, up to 150. So these pigs have completely different needs. So our transport practices in Canada, they provide recommendation based on weight. So we wanted to we wanted to give a validation, sign validation on the on the space allowances provided for 130 kilo pigs and under 150 kilo pigs. And unfortunately, one of the disadvantages or not the flaws of the study was that transportation time was very short. So when the transportation time very short, pigs tend to stand more than lying down. So regardless of the space allowance you provide, so most pigs were actually standing more than lying down, or standing or sitting, which is a kind of transition posture between standing and lying. So we couldn't see very much the effect of application of this space allowance in the track, but we could see something in lairage. So pigs, being transported at a lower space allowance, they were more excited, they were more fatigued because they couldn't lie down compared to the others, so they were lying down in the more in the lairage pen than the others. While the others, they could lie down, and they were standing, they were more fit because they could rest in the truck in transportation.
Okay, very good. So let's turn our attention then, Luigi, to another topic of importance, and that is your experience or your recommendations on proper loadout design. So designs that are helpful for the pig, helpful for the producer loading pigs, and helpful for the trucker.
Yeah, the loadout facilities are more included in the design of the vehicles, because of course the vehicles have all kind of equipments for to load and unload pigs from in and out of the truck, of the trailer. And we have vehicles with internal ramps, sometimes very, very steep, like the most popular vehicle used in Canada, which is the pot-belly trailer, with ramps going to the upper deck and ramps going to the bottom deck. Sometimes in some vehicle models, the ramps are very steep. They are exceeding a 20 degrees slope, which is the recommended angle for ramps, making the handling quite difficult, both for pigs and for the trucker, for the drivers, and for the handlers in overall. And then we have other models which are a bit more sophisticated, with semi-hydraulic or full hydraulic decks, and these are much easier to load and to unload, because pigs don't have to negotiate any ramp, and they are just lifted up and down and descended to the floor in order to be loaded or unloaded. And then now we have other vehicle models with the tail lifts, which are completely in the back of the vehicles. And in this case, the decks are fixed, and just an elevator going up and down, and taking pigs to the decks they will be assigned to. The thing with the loading out and loading and unloading, and the effort the handler have to make, and also the pigs have to make, is the question of the height of the deck, the height of the compartment, which is in these vehicles, in all the vehicles I assessed so far, the height is a bit too low compared to the recommendation. Regardless if we talk about passively ventilated vehicles or actively ventilated vehicles, there are recommendations which are actually have been reiterated and confirmed in the amendment, in the proposed amendment of the European legislation, which is 15 centimeters between the higher point of the body of the animals and the ceiling of the deck for the actively ventilated vehicles, and 30 centimeters between the body of the animals and the ceiling of the deck for passively ventilated vehicles. In all trailers I have set in my last 15 years research, all vehicles couldn't respect this height. that makes the loading and unloading the handling in and off the truck very difficult for the rehandlers, because they have to crawl into the deck and push the pigs in their position, which is very frustrating and tiring and for them. And also because the lower height also prevents from a proper air circulation inside the compartment. So then we have problem with the microclimate inside the trailer, higher temperature, lower airflow, and higher humidity, higher, and the quality of the air is not that good. So we have increased levels of ammonia in certain compartments because of the height, because the ventilation is not good enough. To remove all the noxious gases from the air. So the height is something that, again, talking about future research, is something we have to work on in the future in order to to adapt and to modify the design of these vehicles.
Right. There's time. Our enemy,
Yeah.
Luigi,
Yeah.
is always. But before we go, can you talk just a little bit? We've been talking about transportation of market hogs for the most part. You've mentioned sows, you've mentioned weaning pigs. Could you talk just a little bit more about transportation of weaning pigs, please?
Yeah.
And what you think are some of the keys to success for moving these little guys? They're obviously not as robust as their as a market hog is going to be. So what are some of the things that we need to keep in mind when we're transporting weanling pigs?
Yeah, research on weaners or on piglets is something that must be done, because compared to the adult pigs or market weight pigs, research has been a very little focus on this, and there are very few studies on this. And but basically, there's no much difference in terms of needs or consequences of a poor transportation on piglets, compared with adult pigs. We have exactly the same issues with the thermal control. Of course, piglets are more vulnerable to cold stress than with warm stress, because of course they have no back fat almost. There's no isolating tissue for them to protect them from cold, and so cold stress is more an issue for them, but also heat stress is an issue. Exactly. Compared with adult pigs, they're exactly the same thing. The thing that, of course, when we talk about the thermoneutral zone for piglets, is completely different compared to the adult pigs. So piglets are more vulnerable to cold stress. So they usually the upper critical temperature is higher, is 30 degrees compared to 25 degrees for adult pigs. So they can cope with it much better than adult pigs. And so, but again, when research showed that when the temperature is is above 20-25 degrees, we have an increase in the DO rate in dead pigs in transportation. When we have very limited floor space, then we have problem with pigs being standing more than lying. But it still depends on the transportation conditions. If it is too warm, they tend to lay down more, and or they tend to stand more. When it is too cold, they tend to lie down more because they are fatigued, and so basically we have the same problems, but of course for a different perspective, because they are smaller animals. With space allowances, for instance, the space allowances are not that large compared to the adult pigs. And again, the amendment of the European legislation is taking care of this. They are recalculating all the space allowance for piglets, because research has showed, for instance, that for a piglet, 0.06 square meter per piglet would be enough to let them, lie down and rest. But now the space allowance are increasing up to 0.10, 0.20, 0.30, depending on the weight of the piglet. Because also research must be also consider based on the type of piglet, because here in North America we have early wean piglets. In Europe we have older piglets, so they have completely different
Yeah.
needs and reaction to the transportation stress. But overall, wrapping up all this, the issues are mostly the same. Cold and heat are very challenging to them, and the transportation time is also challenging because it depends on the condition you provide to them to lie down and
Yeah.
to rest. And also there's also a question of being deprived of feed, being deprived of water, and so it's basically the same. But of course, the recommendation are adjusted to the size of the animal.
Right. Okay. Very good.
It's time for our famous three.
Well, I'm afraid we're getting to the end of our time, and I need to ask you the three questions that you're now familiar with,
Yeah.
Luigi. And the first one is your favorite swine-related textbook or resource. So,
Well,
you're
I tend to repeat the same answer I gave you last time. Of course,
sure.
there are very outstanding books now on the market, and I'm all the Temple Grandin's books on animal welfare, livestock transport and handling, all the different editions. We are now working with Temple on the sixth edition. Every 5 years she has to produce another edition for the publisher, so we are working on it and try to update our chapter on transportation of pigs. The last time I also I also mentioned by the book I published last year, which is more on slaughter handling, so from farm to slaughter in different species, which is quite unique. And now this year we published a new book, The Advances in Pig Welfare, which is the second edition with different aspects of welfare in pigs, and I authored a chapter on transportation and handling of pigs.
So our second question then is your favorite book or resource that is not related to swine.
Well, I'm very fond of history and art, so I
Yeah.
tend to read this type of books.
Right, right. And the final question then is, as you look out across the our industry and sector, and you see what is it that makes professionals that are particularly successful in our field? What is it? What are the characteristics, or what is a chief characteristic that you feel makes them particularly successful?
Well, in order to be successful in our field, being professional, being a technical professional or research professional, is not just to be open minded, to be innovative and to be open to all kind of innovations, and being proactive and visionary. To try to see what is going on around, and the new technology. In terms of, for instance, I'm very fond and keen on learning about technologies in order to monitor the welfare of animals in real time, in order to to catch to identify the problem, the issues, and try to solve them right away. So this is I think will be the is something that will make an individual very interesting to the research community, to the industry community too.
Right. Open-minded, absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you. We've been speaking with Dr. Luigi Faucitano, who's a research scientist with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada in Sherbrooke, Quebec. Luigi, thank you again so very much for your time, and may I wish you a happy new year.
You too. Thank you very much.